What if the very thing everyone called crazy was actually your ticket to getting rich? Today we're going to break down a pretty wild story that blew up on social media. It's a fascinating case study in public ridicule, political devotion, and one of the most absolutely incredible payoffs you're ever likely to see. Okay, so this entire story is really built on one powerful idea. It's a belief that loyalty isn't just important. No, it's more powerful than friendship.
Damasho, I don't go to now. Say Wicknell, my wow. Net fifty Tawanda bankrupt. So that pretend out na president, Mamunanga, na 50 late. ZANU PF. Don't go to that guys. I would tell that should go to
respect. It's the one thing that's left standing when everything else falls apart. And you've really got to get this philosophy to understand everything that comes next. So right from the jump, the story sets up this clash of two different worlds. On one side, you have the world of opportunists, right? The people who see loyalty and just laugh at it, calling it foolishness. But then, there's this other world, where being loyal makes you part of a small, brave group that stands for something. The message is pretty straightforward. You either stand boldly or you fade away. All right, so that's the big idea. But what does that actually look like in the real world?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting informed on, well, some pretty complex stuff. Today we're jumping into something really fascinating, loyalty. We often talk about it like it's this straightforward virtue, admirable. But what if how it works, how it shows up, and how it gets rewarded? What if that's way more surprising than we usually think? Our mission here is to unpack this really compelling source you brought in, one that seems to challenge, well, almost everything we thought we knew about real devotion.
Exactly. It's this excerpt that looks at loyalty through a very specific, very real-world lens. It's quite a story, honestly. Offers some pretty unexpected takes on dedication and maybe even more surprisingly, the tangible results it can bring. This isn't just theory, it's a real case study that really jumped out at us.
And right at the core of this source material, there's this Shona proverb you flagged, Zungu Rino Bakara, which translates to foolishness pays. Kind of grabs you, right? So I guess the big question for us today, looking at this source, is can that kind of unwavering, maybe unconventional, maybe even seemingly foolish loyalty, can it actually pay off? Like really pay off? Let's get into it.
Okay, so first off, the source sets a really high bar for what loyalty even is. It says, let me quote it directly, loyalty is more valuable than friendship and more powerful than respect, because when everything else fades away, only loyalty remains standing. So it's not just like sticking by someone. It's positioned as this ultimate enduring thing, almost fundamental.
Right, and this is where this source really starts pushing back against maybe how we normally think. Because it points out that this deep kind of loyalty, often it's just completely misunderstood, especially now. It mentions people seeing it as actual foolishness or obsession. The text says people might laugh at those who love unconditionally or, support certain causes maybe too consistently. It even gives a specific phrase, Weva Kurasika Enjari, basically saying you're losing your mind or you've lost your senses. It paints a pretty stark picture, doesn't it? How real dedication can just be mocked.
And that leads us straight into the main example in the source. It's about a young Zimbabwean man, Mr. Tawanda Timothy Marimbe, but he's better known as DJ Towers. And the source highlights his unapologetic loyalty towards the revolutionary mass party ZANU PF, which for anyone listening who doesn't know, is the longtime ruling party in Zimbabwe. And it says he showed this loyalty to, quote, unprecedented levels. He really seems to embody that kind of unwavering, very public support.
Unprecedented levels. Wow. And the source gets specific about how he showed it, right? These really memorable actions, like he'd shout EPFEE, that's referencing President Mnangagwa, the party leader. He did. And then there's the really unique one, Akis Vizora Dovi, smearing peanut butter on himself, apparently all while proudly declaring his love for ZANU PF without fear of criticism. The source actually says he turned ridicule into relevance and adds that doing that takes more GUTS than most people will ever have. That's quite a statement. It's not just brave, it sounds almost like strategic, redefining value.
It really does suggest that, yeah. And what's interesting is the reaction he apparently got at first. The source points out he's been called names, Ed on social media, and even accused of being a lunatic. So, with all that public ridicule, you'd probably think, okay, that's a cautionary tale, right? And there's this bit of irony right after describing the mockery, where the source kind of laments. It says, it's very sad that he has not been given the appropriate recognition for his undying support. So it sets up this picture of someone whose dedication seemed, well, totally unrewarded, even scorned.
Okay, right. So it seems like he's just being mocked, not getting recognized. But then, like you said, the twist.
Yeah.
Right after saying it's sad he wasn't recognized, the source completely flips. It says DJ Towers was rewarded, and specifically for his different and unique kind of patriotism and loyalty.
Yeah.
So the very thing that made him seem foolish or like a lunatic to some, suddenly that's framed as extraordinary. It's like the usual rules just didn't apply here.
Exactly. And the rewards, they're incredibly specific and pretty substantial. Get this. He received a brand spanking new 2025 Toyota Fortuner 4x4 2-dealer 8 GD6.
Wow, a new Fortuner.
Yeah, fully paid for, ready to pick up at this dealership, exquisite car dealership. But wait, there's more.
Okay.
He also got an additional US $50,000 pocket money in cash.
50,000 cash.
Yep. And then this really unusual instruction, almost celebratory, Smikuti Igi Kuchi 3 Baba, which basically means smear honey all over your body, because ED, the president, is honey father.
Smear. Okay, that's specific. So this whole story, it just brings us straight back to that proverb, doesn't it? Zingu Reno Para. Foolishness pays. I mean, this example from the source seems like a huge yes to that question. What looked like foolishness or, craziness to many, it didn't just not hold him back, it led to these massive tangible rewards. It really makes you rethink what we consider, I don't know, sensible. Or strategic, even.
And if you, listening, think about the bigger picture here, what does this story, DJ Towers' story, really tell us about value, about recognition, about the different paths to actually achieving them? It really forces you to question those assumptions about what's sensible behavior or strategic. Maybe there's more than one way. Maybe the unconventional route is sometimes the one that pays off the most. It kind of forces a rethink of what smart or effective even means in some situations.
Yeah, this deep dive, looking closely at the source, it really highlights that tension, the tension between how we see loyalty, especially when it gets kind of weird or unconventional, and the surprising rewards it can sometimes bring. It really does seem like, as that hashtag in the source said, hashtag loyalty pays.
So it leaves you with a question, really. In a world that often tells you what's valuable, what actions make sense, what does a story like DJ Towers suggest about those hidden dynamics, about how loyalty actually works sometimes? And maybe, just maybe, what might you consider foolish in your own life? Something you're passionate about, devoted to, that others might kind of dismiss? Could that, in some unexpected way, lead to a reward you never saw coming? Something to think about.